Hi everyone, I'm Delarose. I'm really excited to be part of this year Executive Planning Day. In this short presentation, I'll be sharing through some key insights that respond to four big questions around today, macroeconomic challenge, and what they mean for us as an organization. These insights are designed to support your strategic thinking as we move through an environment that's constantly evolving. Let's jump in. Hi, so now let's talk about the topic one, the macroeconomy and understanding the business cycle. So the first one is gross domestic product, measures the total value of all goods and services produced within a country over a specific period. Rising GDP indicates economic growth, increased business activity, and higher consumer spending. If GDP falls for two consecutive quarters, it signals a recession, often linked to reduced demand and lower production. For a second one is inflation, is the rate at which price for goods and services increase. Moderate inflation suggests healthy demand and economic growth. However, high inflation reduces purchasing power, while very low inflation or deflation can signal weak demand and falling business profits. For a third one is the unemployment, reflects the percentage of the workforce actively seeking but unable to find work. High unemployment suggests weak economic condition and underused labor. Low unemployment often indicates strong demand and business growth but can also lead to labor shortage and wage pressure. Now, how do these measures link to the business cycle? The business cycle refers to the natural fluctuations in economic activity over time, moving through phases of recession and expansion. The cycle are closely linked to change in key macroeconomic indicators like interest rates, unemployment, and net exports. During a recession, economic activity slows down. To stimulate growth, interest rates are typically lowered to encourage spending and investment. Youth unemployment often rises as business cut jobs, and net exports may increase slightly as domestic consumption and demand for imports decline. In contrast, during an expansion, the economy begins to recover and grow. Interest rates are usually raised to prevent the economy from overheating and to control inflation. As businesses hire more workers, youth unemployment falls. However, net exports may decline if stronger domestic demand leads to a rise in imports. Next, why understanding general economic condition and the business cycle is relevant for the organization? For a global financial institution, economic awareness is critical for strategic decision making. Understanding economic indicators and the business cycle enhance investment strategies and risk management by aligning with interest rate trends and inflation expectation. It also strengthens strategic asset allocation by using insight on GDP growth, market cycles, and trade dynamics to diversify investment effectively. Furthermore, by staying informed on economic shifts, organizations can adjust client portfolios to better match market conditions, ultimately improving returns and supporting long-term financial stability. Next, for the topic 2, I will talk about the imposition of the tariff affect Australian macroeconomy. When tariffs are imposed on Australian exports, particularly by a major trade partner like the US, they reduce international demand for Australian goods. As export decline, net export fall, causing aggregate demand to shift leftward from 81 to 82. This move to the economy from equilibrium point E1 to E2, where both real GDP decrease and the price level falls, signaling a slowdown in economic activity and rising unemployment. In the short run, higher unemployment leads to weaker wage growth. Meanwhile, falling global demand may reduce the price of imported inputs, lowering production costs. This can shift short-run aggregate supply, which is SRAS, rightward from AS1 to AS2, moving the economy to a new equilibrium at E3, where price drop further but output return to potential levels. In the long run, remains unchanged since Australia's long-term productive capacity depend on structural factors like technology and resources, not short-term trade stock. Next, while tariffs on Australian exports to the US have a direct effect, the bigger picture is that global trade tensions can create a ripple effect across Australia's entire business environment. When major economies impose tariffs on one another, it slows down global trade. That means lower demand for goods and services, more uncertainty, and less confidence for business to invest or grow. For Australian companies, this could mean higher costs for imported materials, delays in supply chains, or even needing to find new suppliers altogether. Businesses that rely heavily on export may also see demand drop if overseas customers are facing their own economic pressure. This matters for our organization because we need to stay ahead of this change. It may be time to rethink parts of our supply chain, explore more local sourcing, or diversify our markets to reduce risk. Trade tensions are outside of our control, but how we respond to them isn't. Being aware of these issues help us make smarter, more resilient decisions, and that's exactly what our leaders need to plan for at this stage. Next, we are talking about a topic 3, insight from behavioral economics. Next, let's look at the difference between traditional economic and behavioral economics, especially when it comes to why people often choose unhealthy food. Traditional economic assumes that people make decisions based on logic and rational thinking to maximize their benefit. So, if someone knows that healthy food is better for their long-term health, they are expected to choose it over something unhealthy. Behavior economic, however, takes a more realistic view. It recognizes that our choices are influenced by biases, emotions, habits, and social factors. For example, someone might reach for fast food instead of a salad, not because it's the better choice, but it's because familiar comforting. So why do people often go for our healthy option? Here are the key behavioral concepts that help explain it, which is framing effect, priming effect, and bounded rationality. Lastly, I will discuss the generative AI and the labor market. As AI continues to advance and becomes more integrated into various industries, the need for skilled labor increases. This caused the demand curve for skilled workers to shift to the right from D1 to D2, resulting in higher wage W1 to W2 and greater employment levels Q1 to Q2. As wages for skilled roles rise, it boosts average income levels and can create an incentive for low-skilled workers to retrain or upskill, especially with access to affordable AI-powered learning tools. Over time, this upward mobility helps narrow the wage gap between skilled and unskilled workers, contributing to reduced income inequality. In other scenarios, as AI tools become more widespread, many businesses start automating routine, low-skilled jobs. This leads to a decline in demand for unskilled labor, shifting the demand curve leftward from D1 to D2. As a result, both wages and employment for unskilled workers fall. At the same time, demand for skilled workers continues to grow since they are needed to develop, manage, or work alongside AI systems. Unfortunately, many unskilled workers may lack the resources, access, or opportunity to retrain, making it difficult to transition into higher skill roles. This growing divide leads to a wider wage gap and fewer opportunities for upward mobility, ultimately increasing inequality in the labor market. Looking ahead, I expect that wage inequality will likely increase as AI continues to evolve. While AI boosts productivity and creates new high-paying roles for skilled workers, it also replaces many routine and low-skilled jobs. Without broad access to upskilling and education, unskilled workers may struggle to transition into these emerging roles. This creates a growing gap between those who can work alongside AI and those who are left behind. Unless government and organizations invest in inclusive training and support systems, the benefit of AI will not be evenly shared and wage inequality will continue to widen. So this is all for my presentation today. I have covered all 4 key questions and will end my presentation here today. Thank you.